Surely your goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. The 23rd Psalm is such a good one, right? These are words that have comforted God's people in every generation, I think. I learned this week as I was studying these scriptures that apparently our love of these words, poetry, particularly in English, have swayed even modern translators of the Bible, because apparently we just all share this desire to hear this psalm in the language that our grandparents prayed it, that our elders said to us. So much so that the translators seem to have maybe gone so far as to sacrifice a little bit of the meaning as the English language has evolved over the generations. Goodness and mercy shall follow me is the text that's familiar to us, that we hear. But follow, the word follow as it's translated, doesn't really capture how active the verb is in the original Hebrew. It could be better translated, I guess, as pursue. Surely goodness and mercy shall pursue me all the days of my life. We're probably not going to change how we pray the 23rd Psalm, but I found that image of goodness and mercy pursuing us to be so life-giving to me this week. I really want goodness and mercy to be chasing me, to be coming after me always, but maybe especially this year. With all the difficult and hard things that have been chasing us, it makes me really happy to imagine goodness and mercy are on the case as well. So you may have seen this video going around this week. It's been doing the rounds with a bunch of really funny captions. Callum's going to show it in just a second. We got lots of funny captions, but my favorite was, "Every time after Jesus gets me out of a bind." All right, so go ahead, Callum, and play it. All right, so just in case you couldn't see it, someone is just pulling this sheep that has gotten into a trench out with all of its might. And the sheep gets free and runs away and bounds away, and then immediately dives headfirst right back into the trench. I think life is like that sometimes, right? We get free from one struggle and plunge right back into another. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. We bound headfirst right back into the same place that has trapped us over and over again in life, right? We know ourselves well enough to know that we can do that all the time as people. I think we can even laugh at ourselves sometimes. Maybe that's why we've connected historically with the sheep. We do get ourselves into binds. And so we trust that the Good Shepherd is coming for us over and over again, just like this shepherd that's yanking us out of the trenches of our lives, pursuing us even when we get stuck over and over again. And I think this shepherd wants us to live and grow and go on, not stuck, but to live in goodness and mercy. That's what this Good Shepherd wants for us. It says right before this passage of, "Come that you can have life and have it to the full." And so the Good Shepherd will pursue us into those places, even knowing full well that we're going to get stuck again and again. Today's gospel invites us, I think, to think even beyond that individual sense of us as individual sheep and the shepherd coming after us individually, although that's certainly part of that, and that's certainly part of this journey. I think in John's gospel today, Jesus is building on this image of a shepherd and inviting us to think beyond just this need for individual guidance, individual rescue. It's part of the job of a shepherd to pull the individual sheep out of danger, But the shepherd also cares for the whole herd, the whole group, the whole community. And so Jesus introduces the idea of wolves to this story. And we know that goodness and mercy are not the only things pursuing us in this world, that there are dangerous forces at work too. I don't know about you, but I have felt pursued by dangerous forces this year. For one thing, there has been this terrible virus that lingers invisibly in the air around us, has made each other into potential dangers, that have made ourselves into potential dangers of others. It has felt like we've had to be just constantly vigilant. That's hard. And then there were the fires. Sing this song in the atrium. The Lord is my shepherd, I'll walk with him always. And I love that song and that image of the Good Shepherd that's so central to this community. It reminds me of so many sweet moments in the atrium, but that memory of that song is always going to be tinged for me with sadness too. I sang that song to Isaiah at 2 a.m. on that horrible night that we were fleeing from the glass fire. I wanted to keep him calm. It was just him and I in our car together. And I wanted to pray for the church and for everyone else that was fleeing or fighting that fire. I wanted to pray for our sweet church, which on that night we didn't know if it was going to make it through the night. I was afraid. And I asked the Good Shepherd to lead us through that place of such great danger, that fire that was pursuing us in our places of safety that night. That song and that thought of the Good Shepherd will always be tied in my memory, I think, together. This year has had even more dangers, right? More dangers that plague the life of our community, our nation, our world. Things like racism and sexism, widening economic inequality, all the systems of injustice that plague us. These dangers are not new, but I think perhaps they seem closer to some of us than they did before this year. I think what all these dangers have in common is that, like wolves, they threaten the vulnerable first. Dangers can be sneaky, even invisible to those at the center of the group, at least at first. Those around the edges, around the margins that see the wolves first, that understand how they operate, that understand their real physical danger. But ultimately, the wolves are dangerous to everyone, to the whole group. They can destroy the whole group given time and opportunity. They're a real threat both to each sheep, but also to the scattering of the flock. Just that some are going to realize that faster than others. COVID has been like that in many ways, right? The people who have borne the cost of it the most have, by and large, been the most vulnerable people in our communities. The fires were like that too. Racism, sexism, exploitation of all kinds, they are a threat to us all ultimately. But those at the center are able to hide from them for a while if they want to. I think one of the insidious ways that systems like racism and white supremacy, homophobia, all those things, I think one of the insidious things about them is that they let some of us, white people, men, straight people, richer people, keep our faces hidden from the truth of that danger, or protected from the truth so that it seems like we aren't in danger. And I believe that the Good Shepherd wants us, longs for us more than anything, to be free of these systems that hurt some of us right now and that hurt all of us in the end. The Good Shepherd is pursuing us with goodness and mercy into the deepest trenches, the deepest ruts, the most horrible, evil systems that we're stuck in, the worst patterns and ways of evil that we've been able to dream up and get stuck in as humans. That Good Shepherd is trying to get us free so that we can live together and grow and flourish. Jesus' words about the Good Shepherd don't come out of nowhere in the Bible. There's a context for them. Jesus is teaching about something, an event that just happened right before this. Basically, Jesus, through his works of healing, through his teachings, has been upsetting the leaders of the time, some of the leaders of the time, more and more and more. Got these disruptive ideas about love, about healing, about abundance that have transgressed all kinds of boundaries already. And then, right before this passage, he heals a blind man, but he does it on the Sabbath, which is not when orderly, godly, good people do healing things, according to these leaders. And these particular leaders, who are not all leaders of the time, nor all Jews, by the way, that passage has been read that way. But these particular leaders make it clear by their words and actions that they don't really care about healing. They come and question this guy who's been given sight by Jesus. And it's clear that they're about control. They're about keeping things the same. They're about keeping their own power. They don't want to see this healing. They actually throw the guy out and say, well, you're just a sinner. That's why you were blind. And they don't even address the fact that he can see all of a sudden. They already had a tidy explanation for why bad things had happened to this guy, that he was sinful. And they had a tidy explanation for why Jesus was gaining a following and changing the community, that he was a rabble rouser. And so they determined that he needed to be killed. And so right at this point is when Jesus starts speaking about the Good Shepherd. One who doesn't prize control or tidy order or gain at the expense of others, but a shepherd who cares for the sheep, who knows each one by name, who would protect them from the wolves that pursue them, even to the point of giving his life. And these leaders just cannot hear it. They hear the words that Jesus speaks about being the Good Shepherd, and they immediately call him a demon and try to stone him. And they succeed not too long after this in having him killed. It's just that the life that Jesus came to bring, the healing, the love, that was all more powerful than death. Even the sneakiest, the most deadly wolves could not overcome this shepherd, though it would seem like the wolves had won for a little while. I think we're at a moment of great danger right now as a people. We have been surrounded by grief that most of us have never known in the intensity of this year. We've been through trauma and difficulty, which has disrupted our lives and our communities. Many of our systems, our patterns, our ways of living together have been disrupted too. Our social structures, which kept some people down and pushed others to the top, a lot of that has been disrupted this year. People are shining a light on those ways and their injustices like never before. This country, our democracy's cracks have been shown very clearly, and the danger of those cracks is more evident than it has been to many of us in the past, many of us who are privileged enough to ignore them. This has been happening, this disruption, over and over in so many different ways. Perhaps one of the only gifts of this difficult year has been that shutting our eyes is getting to be a much harder option. For those of us who have been able to hide out safe in the center, maybe we can't do that as well as we could before. Just this week, we had this shining image of this dynamic, for me at least. Arnella Frazier, the 17-year-old girl who a year ago got out her phone, realizing what was happening, and filmed George Floyd's murder. Her courage and bravery made it so that we could not shut our eyes and explain away what she filmed there. So our system has had to contend with its long pattern of injustice in yet a new way, in a tiny step forward, but a step forward nonetheless. That gift of truth, of seeing is hard. Hard, it can be ugly. It can feel like too much. I think it's what's needed to get free. I believe that Jesus, our good shepherd, is present with us in this time, working in this disruption, maybe even causing the disruption, to help us get free from all that has kept us stuck, mired in these systems that hurt so many, that hurt us all in the end. Yet we are still in danger of running away from being leaders who might stand up to the wolves who still pursue us. We're still in danger of being sheep who will jump right back into the trench where we can hide our faces from the truth. We're still in danger of scattering in hopes that somehow we could run away from danger that way. Speak for myself here. I know that it can feel like our grief from this year is overwhelming, and that it would be easy to turn right back to just drowning it in an unhealthy obsession with productivity, some kind of other way of numbing addiction, distraction, so that we don't have to face this grief. What's been hard, what's been disruptive. But there is hope in this place of danger. That's what these passages have for me this week. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, our good shepherd pursues us. Goodness and mercy aren't just around waiting for us to find them. Goodness and mercy pursue us. They're chasing us, ready to find us and pull us out of those stuck places and heal us and restore us to green pastures and still waters together. One community. We can choose to run away. We can choose to hide our faces or let our faces be hidden. We can choose to explain away the healing truth of this moment, even try to kill it. But I believe that the life that Jesus came to bring does triumph in the end, has already triumphed. Jesus wishes for us fullness of life, healing, abundance, love for all. The tomb is empty and death has lost its sting. Jesus won't force us to take part in that life. So he'll chase after us in order to offer it to us in every possible way. That choice remains ours. What do we do with that? I would never be proud enough to offer a total answer to that enormous question that I think is one of the main questions of our life and faith, but I can tell you what I'm thinking. I think that we take up our courage together and we face the grief and truth of this moment, and we trust that Jesus will bring us healing in it. Later this morning, Rebecca Bell will lead us in another installment of her forum, It's Okay Not to Be Okay, which has been so powerful. Just that simple phrase and simple idea. We can face this grief together. We have been facing it together. We can continue to do that. I think that's a really good place to start this work. That might look different for different people. It might mean asking for help with something that has gotten overwhelming during this time. It might look like seeking out healing in some really intentional ways through rest, through prayer, through being a part of building our communities back up. And I believe that restoration happens together, that our shepherd is caring for us, not just as individuals, although that's true and that's real, but also as a community together. We can feel the grief of this year together and reach out to each other for care and comfort and healing, which takes vulnerability, which takes courage. Can hear the stories of others, be willing to see them even when it's hard, even when it hurts. You can ask for help from people who have been facing these wolves, who have known about how they work for longer than we have, who have wisdom to share with us, who have ways to build our community back up together. Most of all, I think we can trust in hope, in that mysterious hope of the resurrection that seems so impossible, that the Good Shepherd is working here in this time, that the Good Shepherd is pursuing us with love and healing and goodness and mercy all the days of our lives, so that we can dwell together in the house of the Lord forever.